And we have been here doing an assessment. We have been secret shopping you. So we marketing materials. I've got stacks of pictures. We looked at websites, see were they effective in getting people to come here. Was it easy to find information about you? What else did we do here? And why is not my clicker not working here? Come on, I know it's going to work. It's supposed to work. There we go. Convenience. And I may have really low batteries in this, so I may have to change them here in a minute because this thing is not cooperating. And this has been my day for computer problems. Don't you love technology when it works? And so you know what I'm going to have to do right here is I'm going to have to get it back. Isn't this a great part of presentation? And so I'm getting the batteries in my little clicker just quit working here. And so I usually have some spares somewhere. So we're going to try this just for a quick second, and I apologize about that, because I have to go walk over to the computer and start pushing buttons. Oh, see, now here they come. And so let me just pop this off of here, and let me just say, hopefully that's the challenge. So let me put that one in there, let me put that one in there. Let's see if this works a little better. So we looked at this, and then we have been all week checking you out. We looked at I'm still going to have problems, aren't I? And it's just going to fight me every which way, isn't it? And so let me just try one other thing here. I'm going to switch my sound over here. This was all working. And then here, if all else fails, punt. Let's see if that makes it any better. And so we looked at your signage, your gateways, your overall appeal, your critical mass, and this thing is just not going to cooperate with me no matter what I do. And I'm not too sure why. And so there we go. Doing all. Don't you love it when technology is supposed to work and it doesn't? And so let me see if it happens if I just come out here and do it manually, the old way. No, it's still not going to cooperate. Yeah, it's late, like 10 late. So go back to that slide if it'll let me. We went through a list of 60 different things, and I went through all 60 with you. I'm just kidding. We're already going, man, I'm ready to go home already. And we're going to go back to the office, and I write up an assessment, findings, and suggestions report. So I don't panic and take bunches of notes and everything. And by the way, this is being filmed as well. So you're going to get this. And you're going to see a lot that I call suggestions. There are no recommendations here. Doug and I have been here all week. We've been secret shopping you. We have come here in 3 different capacities. If I wanted to live here, would I move to Deadwood? No. If I wanted to invest and start a business here, would Deadwood be on my list? And number 3, we are here as visitors. We got no information from the city. We got no information from anybody here. We said, don't give us anything, not even where to stay, not even where to eat. So we've been just like any other visitor. And so it would be really presumptuous of me if I sat there and gave you recommendations when we never talked to you first. So you're going to see suggestions. And an interesting thing is we went in and surveyed 400 downtowns and downtown districts, and I kind of concentrated on your downtown. By the way, not just historic, Lower Main Street, also this side of the highway. So we consider this kind of one downtown, so we kind of focused on that. And we wanted to talk about this. And a while back, we did a deal with around 400, we identified 400 very successful downtowns or downtown districts in the U.S., Canada, and we concentrated on the 20 most common ingredients that led to their success. Some were as small as 500 people, and some districts in bigger cities, like downtown Rapid City. We were the people that came into Rapid City and called them the hole in the middle of the donut. Because 4 million people here come here, and a lot of them stay in Rapid City, but you know what they do? They get up in the morning and they leave. They head to Sturgis, they head to Deadwood, they head to Mount Rushmore, Crazy Horse Memorial, Badlands National Park, they head to the Black Hills, they head to Custer State Park. You know what I mean? They might even go to Reptile Gardens, they might go all this stuff. They come back to the hotel, and downtown Rapid City was dead. Hole in the middle of the donut. So the biggest challenge we found in all 400 towns, people thinking that facade improvements and beautification were going to make their downtown a draw. Wrong. Tell you that right now. You know what? Once I have seen your historic buildings, I've been there, I've done that. Now, that doesn't mean they're not important, but you know what makes you a draw? It's what's in the buildings. The shops, the restaurants, whatever it is that you're promoting, you're only half done. And here's the thing that we found. I came from the tourism industry. Just to give you some background, way back in the days, I worked in the concert industry. And tour management for groups, okay, I'm going to ask you what years. You can try to guess. I did the tour management for groups like the Eagles, Chicago, Earth, Fire, Fleetwood Mac. Here's the way. I managed the tour, PG Fever. Any guess the years? 79, 80, and 81. Fever came out in 70, right in 78, and then we did the tour a year later. And I was doing that. I thought that I was dealing with Fleetwood Mac, and I thought they were going to kill each other. Even today, Lindsay says, you know, we've never had any business being in a band together. And I'm good friends with a guy from Idaho that was from 1960s rock and roll, Paul Revere. How many of you remember Paul Revere and the Raiders? You just cheated yourself. And I know these guys that are doing a destination resort. I had ulcers. But when we were doing these tours, there were no cell phones. There was no internet. And we're playing these 15 to 18,000 seat stadiums working from phone booth to phone booth. And so he said, and help these guys develop this resort. So I went up and started my career developing Whistler Resort in British Columbia. For 10 years, we worked in the resort business. So we came from the private sector. Then a city, and by the way, I'm from the Super Bowl champion city, Seattle. Yeah, I hear all those Denver fans. Boo. Anyway, a city out in the Washington coast called Ocean Shores said, could you come and help a town? And it was Ocean Shores, who we in Seattle called Open Sores. And since then, we have worked in 1,000 cities, in 45 states, in every Canadian province, Western Europe, Scandinavia, and the Caribbean. And so we've learned a lot by doing this. And working in the travel industry, you know what we found out? Some interesting facts. Number one, if you attract business, industry, or new residents, the heart and soul of every community besides its people is your downtown. That's what site selectors do. They're going to come right downtown Deadwood, to the highway, and they're going to judge you by the health and the wellness of your downtown. Now, if you hang out in downtown Deadwood, neither will visitors. They're going to go where you go. And if you're going somewhere, you know what? They're going to go somewhere else. And then the number one activity of visitors in the world, shopping, dining, and entertainment in a pedestrian-friendly, intimate setting. Even in Las Vegas, even in other gambling towns. That's the number one compliment. That means that's not the reason they come, but it's the number one activity they do when they're here. You ever been to Jackson, Wyoming? I mean, Sisters, Oregon? I mean, I could give you a bunch of those. And look at that. This is where 80% of all non-lodging visitor spending takes place. Why do you think that Disney put Downtown Disney outside each of its parks? To get that 80%. So if you pull them into your hotels, you pull these visitors into your casinos, you still have that 80%. And so, I run these 20 ingredients through. So I took these 20 ingredients that we found out that led to the success of these communities, and I'm applying to Deadwood. The first are what property owners should be doing. And is they all began with a plan. And so I'm only going to talk about this for a second, but what you need to find in Deadwood, or need to develop, is what is it you want to be known for? And I'm going to talk about this tomorrow morning, but I'll tell you right now, we had 2 people in our office checking out all your marketing materials. And they said, man, I can't wait. And they thought of all this Old West history and everything. What does you want for? And by the way, how's that working for you today? Are you a casino town? Are you an Old West town? I see places that are like Mustang Sally's, cool, retro 1950s, but it's hardly 1876. See what I mean? When casinos came in, it's like we abandoned the Old West with modern. Who are you? Branding, what is it you want to be known for? And what do you have to do so you own it? And then how the world and an action plan. 4 towns, 396 had this, and by God, everybody had all 20 of them. But you know what? I'm going to do this while we're doing this presentation. If you see one of the ingredients you think is really cool, I want you to make a mental note of it or write it down or read it to yourself, whatever it takes. I want you to grab one of these. And so, but this is what you need. By the way, the days of strategic plans are over. This is the age of action plans. Where's the to-do list? What is the recommendation? Who's going to implement it? How much will it cost? Where will the money come from? When, and what's the rationale for doing it? That is what you need. And that's what every community needs to do. And you could do this yourself. So, you need your key players on the same page, pulling in the same direction. And I do that in Deadwood. But here is the typical Development Express. What do you think? So, Chamber of Commerce, Economic Development Committee, everyone doing their own thing. And so, when you get everybody on the same page, pulling in the same direction, you go from that to that. That's why you need to hit some kind of a plan going. And by got this beautiful, beautiful stuff in town. Even right now, we went from sub-zero to in like a day. But it's still, you have a stunning downtown. So what is it that you want to do, and where's the plan? That's number one. Number two, 400 of them had this ingredient, a strong brand and retail focus. And this is my question for you in Deadwood. You know what? I came here thinking, what am I going to hear all about Wild Bill and Calamity Jane? And, you know, by the way, having 1,000 cities, I've pretty much been in every city where Buffalo Bill has been, where Mark Twain has been. I've been to the city where Jesse James was born, robbed the bank, and was killed. And one of the most disappointing things is that I started reading the history, and when Bill came here, he had just got married, he was here 2 months, he got shot back, and now we're celebrating it. Seals me, Wild Bill Hickok, so I knew that. And so, I'm testing you. And so, I went and got my picture taken with him, and so I could not figure out who you are. Are you 1940s, 1950s? Are you going to be kind of retro? You've got beautiful historic buildings, and there's kind of a mix. I mean, I love it. Is this the courthouse? It's beautiful, and I kept seeing all these different things. Beautiful, everything that you're doing, but I wasn't transported in time into the 1870s because it's not all 1870s anymore. It's kind of a hodgepodge. And then you've got the modern. And so I'm going, okay, I was expecting, Tombstone, I was expecting, some of those towns. And quite frankly, it wasn't here. And by the way, here's the thing. The challenge you have a lot with, I had my eyes closed on that, by the way. The challenge with this is sometimes what happens is a lot of your historical attractions, once I've been there, I've done it. Is there a reason to come back to Deadwood? So once I read, and these are amazing. I love all of the historical displays and everything. But in one day, I got my picture taken with Wild Bill. I read all that I could find in downtown. I went to the 76 Museum. I went to the Adams Museum. I went up to the gravesite. In one day, all that. Now I've done it. So what's going to get me to come back? And by the way, I'm not saying you throw your history under the bus, but where's the experiences? See what I mean? What else can I do here? And here's the bad news. The days of casino gambling as a brand are over. 48 of 50 states now have gambling. There's only 2 that don't. Utah and Hawaii. Well, Hawaii has lottery, some form of gaming. Yeah. So the only states, Utah and Hawaii. And that's why West Wendover, Nevada does pretty well. That's where Utah comes to gamble. But the point is it doesn't make you different. And that's the problem. You know what? We worked in 60 cities in Nevada to try to figure out all those little towns, Yerington, Winnemucca, all those towns, Tonopah, all those towns that tried to hang their hat on gambling. It wasn't different. Even Las Vegas no longer promotes gambling. It is the entertainment capital of the world. And guess what? They're getting full rate. Their is very expensive. But you know what? You're going there because there's 6 Cirque du Soleil shows. There's all this entertainment there. And while you're there, you're going to drop some quarters, dollars, and whatever in the machines. See what I mean? It's no longer a primary brand. I hate to tell you that. So, my wife and I did we came in and worked with Black Hills Tourism. We said, you guys got to be the Great American Road Trip. Come on. Think Sturgis, Wall Drug. Look at you. And so I started that. So my 2 years did the Great American Road Trip. We drove up to Seattle. But you know what? We did not come to Deadwood. I had no idea you're going to invite us. Otherwise, I probably would have said, they're going to invite us there. We better go down there and check it out. But at the time, all we knew is Deadwood was a gambling town. And we're not big gamblers. So we didn't come to Deadwood because we didn't know that you had anything else. It was all casinos. Drive down 90. Look at the cards. And so that's why we didn't. But we did go to Sturgis. We did go to Hill City. We did go to Keystone. We did go to all the attractions. But you know what? What would it take to get me to drive that 10 miles between Sturgis and here? Got to answer that. By the way, the same with wineries. That's the other most overused brand in the United States. And you know, bursting bubbles, even these are starting to die. You know, Tombstone, Arizona actually had to file for bankruptcy reorganization. We've worked in North Platte, where they have Buffalo Bill, the other bill. We've worked in all these towns, and they're struggling. And once again, I'm not saying you throw away your history, but I'm just telling you, how's all this stuff working for you, by the way? I think that's why we're here. And so, here's the note. This does not mean you're throwing your history under the bus, but you need a focus. And right now we have casinos, we have some modern, we have some retro, we have some 1876, we've got a few, you're all over the place. Let me give you an example. This is just Texas. It's in the northeast corner of Texas. They call it Oklahoma, Louisiana, and Texas. Population is just 2,500. You know what? They are the antique capital of Texas. Guess what? They're an antique dealer for every 20 residents that live in that town. They have so many antique dealers that people are driving 4 hours from Dallas to go to Jefferson, Texas for the antiquing. And because there's so many people driving so far, they spend the night and you know what? They are now the official B&B capital of Texas. They have a focus. Jackson, Wyoming, some of you call it Jackson Hole. That's actually the ski area. Jackson, Wyoming, 12,000. It is the home of Western art, Western living. 12,000, that's in the area. But their focus is the home of Western living, Western art. They have 110 galleries and Western living shops in their downtown. 110. And by the way, you know what the population is within a 150-mile radius of Jackson, Wyoming? Total population is 200,000. And yet, they host nearly 4 million visitors a year. You know what the number one asked question is in West Yellowstone, Montana, right there at the entrance to Yellowstone National Park? Which is the quickest way to Jackson? And they said, well, go down Highway 20, I think it's 26 in Idaho. Go down through Rexburg and everything. When you get down there for the mountain, and and they'll say, well, you'll be in Jackson. And they'll say, well, is there any way we can go in and get our picture taken in at Old Yellowstone and come back out and get down there? You know what? Jackson Hole or Jackson, Wyoming is now a bigger draw than both Yellowstone National Park and Grand Teton National Park because it has a focus. And that's what you have to find. What is your focus? Leavenworth, Washington. Is anybody been to Leavenworth, Washington by chance? A few. side of the room. You guys don't travel over here? No, I'm just kidding. So, just 2,500. It was a timber town. They decided to get into a Bavarian village. This is like in 1970. People said, well, it's not unique. They made it up. They facaded all the buildings. But you know what they did? They went over to Bavaria and recruited artisans, bakers, restaurateurs, and over here they really had an authenticity. And you know what happened? 4% of the population is now Bavarian, and they host 2.5 visitors a year. And you know what their slow months is? May and November. That's it. They're 3 hours from Seattle. But they have a focus. And people come from everywhere to go there. Can you guess what their brand is? Live long and prosper. There it is. There's their brand. City name. We even got Leonard Nimoy to go to Vulcan on his own dime and adopt as his Vulcan hometown. As a matter of fact, when that first reboot, the J.J. Abrams Star Trek came out, you know what it is? They wanted to be the world premiere. But they don't even have a theater. But they had that world premiere. Leonard Nimoy heard about it, said he went to CBS and Paramount and pushed for them to get it. This little teeny town out in the prairie. And you know what? They didn't have a theater, but you know what they did? They brought in and bussed everybody in Vulcan over to Calgary to see the premiere a week before anybody else. And by the way, the city council wears Star Trek uniforms. The mayor is all Captain Kirk. If they ever have a woman mayor, she will be Captain Janeway. But it was. And so, it's Canada's official Star Trek capital, a town of 1,700 in the Alberta prairie. And finally, people want an immersive experience. Collections and artifacts quickly become been there, done that activities. And it's no offense to your museums and your historical attractions, but you have to go deeper than that. And if you want to talk about more of this tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock, we're going to talk about this. It'll be only 2 hours, and I promise it'll be fun. It'll be fast-paced. And when you talk about branding, every one of you that's in business, this will apply to you too. What sets you apart from every other hotel, casino, campground, restaurant? So that's number 2. They had a focus, and all 100 of them had a focus. They orchestrated recruitment of critical mass or clustering, like businesses grouped together. Here's what you need to do. So I'm going to use Lower Main Street. You have 3 blocks there. Am I roughly? You know what I'm talking about? From about where the Nugget is. What is it? Is it Post Street or Pine Street? I'm using that. Let's use that. That's kind of your core area. If you want downtown Deadwood to be a great destination, this is the minimum you need in that 3 blocks. There you go. And you probably have, but it wasn't very obvious. And we'll get to that in a bit. Then destination retail shops. Notice that? All those kinds of things. Okay? And I'm saying, hey, we're doing pretty good. I think we've got that, right? Some of you are going, I'm not so sure we have that. But here's the third one. At least 10 at 6 p.m. People spend the night where there's things to do after 6 p.m. besides gaming. You want conferences and conventions? They go where there's stuff to do at the end of the day. If you think about it, if we're snow skiing here, if we're on a trail system, which is fabulous, if we're doing all those recreational things in the Black Hills, we come back to the hotel. Who wants to sit in their hotel twiddling their thumbs watching TV because there's nothing going on? There is no reason why Deadwood should not be busy this week. You know what? I had come up to me the other day and said, Roger, you don't understand. We're a summer destination, and you know what? Within like a 50-mile radius, our total population, taking all the rapid, all the area, is about 1,000. So you know what I did? I pulled out my calculator and said, if we could get 50% of these local people to come to Deadwood, that'd be 100,000 people coming here, right? Sometime during the year. So if we get half the people that live here to come to Deadwood 3 days a year, they come here, this is only half would never set foot in Deadwood. But if 50% of them would come here 3 days a year, whether they come, oh, I went to that event, and then I came back 2 months later, went to this event, or came for one Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right? That would be 300,000 visitors, 100 times 3 days. If you divide that by 200 days of the year, we spread them out of just July and August, you know what that'd be? That'd be 1,500 people a day in downtown Deadwood for 200 days of the year. That's just your locals. I didn't even talk about the 25 million cars or whatever that drive by on Interstate 90. The million people that are already coming here every year. But you're missing this. Your downtown needs to get the mall mentality. Consistent hours and days. You need to be open late in the evening hours, and I'm going to get more into that. You need to have like businesses grouped together as clustering. You know what? You will never go to a successful mall and find an architect's office in there, an H&R Block, or all those kinds of things. They have like businesses grouped together, and they need to have anchor tenants. I had a hard time figuring out who's your anchor tenant. You know? Who is it? You need to have one. And you know what? It doesn't have to be something big. It could be the best cinnamon rolls you can find in South Dakota. And you're going to find them in Deadwood. They're made every morning. You know what? That I need to drive the 10 miles from Sturgis if I'm driving through on I-90. It doesn't have to be big, but it needs to be an anchor tenant. No mall is ever developed without anchor tenants at the ends. Same with your downtown. Who's your anchor tenant? And it's a central gathering place. That's why we did Main Street Square in downtown Rapid City, to create a central gathering place. But think about this. Why do you think, antique malls do 10 times the business when they're all grouped together? I mean, you know what I mean? They're competitors, but they all work together. Think about malls. Why Chevrolet wants to be right next to Ford, Toyota, and Subaru? Because they do 7 times the business. People are always drawn to the critical mass of like businesses. Corner gas stations, fast food restaurants, lifestyle retail centers that are popping up. Food courts. It's the rule of critical mass. That's what you need to do. Sometimes you have to orchestrate the effort. And I'm going to give you one example because we worked in Jackson, Wyoming. That's our job. Once again, 12,000. There's that claim to fame. Grand Teton National Park. The challenge is they're trying to be all things to all people. And if you've been to Jackson, they have this little teeny park right over there downtown. It used to be called the Park. Now they call it Central Park. We told them they should build an amphitheater. We told them they should do what Rapid City did, and they didn't do it. Oh boy, it's going to pull everybody out of my business. Yeah, right. It worked for Rapid City. But it worked all around there. And we decided to make them the home Western Art. You know what my job was? To go to all the property owners, and by 90% of them were absentee. So I went to Los Angeles, I was all over, I was everywhere. And I go to them and I say, we want to become the home of Western art. When your lease expires, that whatever it is that doesn't work in downtown, we don't want you to renew the lease. And they want you to lease it out to a gallery. And we'll bring you the gallery. They decided to be home of Western art, right? Pine pole furnishings, the mountain furnishings, the sheepskin rugs, the cowboy and Indian bronze statues. So my job was to go all these, and these are the after pictures. But first they said, but Roger, we want to be Old West. We have a stagecoach ride that runs right downtown every day. And they do this thing in the summer. Do the shoot on Main Street. Sound all familiar? It wasn't working for them. And so we want to be performers because we have the oldest theater in Wyoming. I said, well, tell me about that theater. Well, they do 2 productions a year, and each one lasts a weekend. I said, so like Sturgis, the other 50 weeks of the year. And so we finally narrowed it down to be in the Western art and all of these things, and we started recruiting in these businesses. But you know what? So I want you to get rid of your tenant. I want your building ready so it would be suitable for a mom and pop art gallery. And I want you to lease it to them for half price. And these people said, now what? You want me to kick out my tenant who always pays their rent? You want me to rent out the building or put money in the building so I can rent out some mom and pop gallery for half price? I said, exactly. 2/3 of them said, buy me out and you could do whatever you want. They were dying. But one, see, I know where you're going from here. It worked. They are the home of Western living, the home of Western art. They now have 85 galleries in their downtown. They're the fourth largest arts community in the United States. So when you talk about you don't have a population living around you, neither do they, because guess what? Look at those numbers. And they're not skiers. Jackson Hole is extreme skiing. It caters to a 20s crowd. That 20s crowd is not buying stuff in galleries. So you can't say, well, we don't have that ski area. I can hear it now. But that is what works. They found a focus. And if you want to lease retail space in downtown Jackson, Wyoming, you'll pay $85 a square foot per year. How would you like to have those rents for you property owners? But by the way, merchants, they're willing to pay it because they're doing good business. And if you want to buy that real estate in downtown Jackson, Wyoming, you will pay about $600 to $800 per square foot. That is the power of having a focus. You have incredible architecture, buildings. You've got the bones to make this work. So what is it? You need to have the critical mass of light business group together. No, you need to have anchor tenants. I just talked about that. How you would eat at this restaurant? Raise your hands. Go ahead, come on. 1, 2, 3. It's always the guys. The women never raise their hands. Okay, so you probably there, huh? So there it is. You can see it's kind of, they break all the rules about curb appeal and everything. There it is right there. It's a little shack. Here it is from a distance right there. It's a fundraiser for this church next door. And it is an American mainly church there, and their choir bought a little shack and did a barbecue there. So that's smoke from the place, that's the barbecue going. Here's our in the barbecue. You can see there's a little grease on the door handles there, from all that barbecue smoke. But don't worry, they've got, towelettes on the tables inside. When you in here, there it is, these tables. And by the way, they have these old metal chairs, and they're not that rusted. And they have bags and baggies. They got dirt on the wall. They ran so they'd use masking, or they had to use strapping tape to hold it up. You can see there's a little bit of publicity there. There it is, Church of the Holy Barbecue. So would eat there now. Lights went up. But guess what? A few years ago, I'm sorry to put this picture up there because it's so sad we lost him. But a while ago, GQ magazine had the 10 meals to fly for in the world. You know where I'm headed. And they named the New Zion Baptist Church Barbecue in Huntsville, Texas as number 3. So now cancel your subscription to GQ. But here's why. When you go, the ladies will say you can pay first, pay second, you can pay later. And you'll say, I don't even know how to get a helmet. Look at this. And they say, sir, sit down there. If I sit down over there, they'll say, sir, sit down. Yes, ma'am. And you move. And they're so these big plates of barbecue, and they start humming gospel songs. And pretty soon the audience, not patrons, the audience is clapping to the music. This little shack it's in a residential zone. The city cannot shut them down because it is the anchor tenant for all of Huntsville, Texas, population 30,000. And people come to the boat just to have lunch. Who's your anchor tenant, Deadwood? It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be big. It has to be different. And these ladies are hilarious that work this place. And people drive 150 miles just to have lunch there because it's an experience. So, there you go. You need to promote your anchor tenants. I work in little Alpena, Michigan. Is that going to go by itself? And this town is a town of 10,000. We wanted them to promote their very best. It's like a 4-hour drive out of Detroit. And by the way, promote the very best of Deadwood. I want you to pick your 4 very best restaurants, your 4 very best retail shops, and maybe your 5 or 6 top activities, which might be your museums, it might be the graveyard, but I'd also like to do some interactive ones. And in this case, here is that brochure. And what you do is you put these in every hotel room because there's no line here. For you, I promote casinos because the casinos don't want to promote other casinos, right? So promote your restaurants, promote your retail shops. And so that's what they did. Each one of these businesses paid $400 to be in here. They were invited to be in here, and I'll tell you the criteria in a minute. And so with this, they printed 20,000 of these. You know what they did is they mailed one to every house, because the number one reason people travel is to visit friends and family. So you know what they did is they sent this out to every house in their zip code, and with this, put a little card that said this, and I'm paraphrasing. The number one reason people travel is to visit friends and family. We hope that you will hang on to this brochure so that when friends and family visit you, you will show them the best of what Deadwood has to offer. Because, and here's how they finish it, because we believe that every dining room table should be a concierge desk. Did you know within days, people were coming downtown in Alpena and going, I didn't know you were here. How long have you been commercial in Greater TNC? 10 years? You know what happened? Within 9, and they went to the state park there. They had a state park there. They handed this out at the state park. Can you imagine doing this? You got around here. And by the way, they paid the state park 25 cents for every time they handed one of these. So somebody would go into a park. You could do this wherever, and I don't know if we could do it with the national parks. I haven't tried it yet. But what happens is you pay your admission, they give you a receipt, and they give you one of these, and they make 25 cents just by handing the brochure. Now, that doesn't make them a lot of money, but you know what? It helps. And then people are going, wow, while we're here, maybe we should stop in Deadwood. Maybe we should go out of our way in Sturgis. See what I mean? Promote your anchor tenants. You know, they're working on this right now. Your neighbors to the east. Promote your anchor tenants. You know what? You need to have 1 or 2 anchor tenants. By the way, if I go back to that, how many of you would go to Orlando if Disney World wasn't there? Raise your hands. You're one. You got relatives down there? No, I like to golf. He likes to golf. But you know what? One out of, what do we got here? 150 people? One. You know, just insulted 171 attractions, but they all know that Disney is the anchor tenant. And while we're there, we don't go to the anchor tenant. We will do Universal Studios, Wild Animal Kingdom, SeaWorld, you name it, right? Promote your anchor tenants, and everyone else will benefit. So I did, the day before, looking for a place to eat in Deadwood. The first thing I did is pull out my phone, and I looked at TripAdvisor. Restaurant is a store. Yeah. And I'm going, you know, I don't know if that's going to be very nutritious for lunch. But what I did is I went and ate the Deadwood Social Club. I tried to figure out upstairs and everything, and it was fine. But you know what? I don't know if your anchor tenant or not. I just went by TripAdvisor. We need some help. And if you're not, you know what? I'm just going to go do that. I'm going to go to Yelp. I'm going to go do that. You need to promote your anchor tenants. Number 5, lease agreements. This starts with property owners, needs to include defined hours and days. I'm going to give you a statistic here. I'm going to give you 3 statistics you need to remember. Here's the first one. All consumer retail spending now takes place after 6 p.m. Period. Okay, let me, no, for you know, can you see that okay in the back? 7% of all consumer spending, locals and visitors, takes place after 6 p.m. Are you open? I'll give you an example. Even farmers markets are moving to the evening hours. Sparks, Nevada. You want a gaming town? Sparks, Nevada. If you haven't been to Sparks, Nevada, they call it Reno. They had a farmers market. It was open every Thursday from 10 to 2. Their average attendance was 500, mainly during lunch hour, right? 10 to 2. Every Thursday. They tried to run a little later. They ran it from 11 till 7 at night. Their attendance went up to 1,000 because now they had lunch and after work traffic, right? They did a bold thing. They added music. They added entertainment. They opened it at 11 in the morning and they shut it off at 9 o'clock at night. And the average attendance at their farmers market is 10,000. Other than gaming, do you have anything for anyone to do after 6 p.m.? It's Valentine's week. You should be full. See, what happens when it's Mother's Day? I mean, why do you have to be July and August? You know, there's no reason for it. And so that's the deal. Now, one other thing about that is there are ways to do that. And I know you have a lot of small merchants that are small mom and pop, and they're going, you know what, I got to go home and cook dinner for the kids. I can't be open late at night. There are ways to get around that. You can do shared worker programs where you might have a couple people that work for the Chamber of Commerce and they move around to different businesses to cover for lunch hours while you go to the bank, while you do UPS, or while you go home and fix dinner for the kids. You'd be better opening later and closing later. We are moving to the European standard. We're eating later at night. We're shopping late. You know what? For you older people like me, in the old days, malls were closed on Sundays. 12 to 5 on Sundays. All Sears and all these places closed at 6. You will never go to a successful mall where it isn't open 10 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock at night, 7 days a week, 360 whatever days of the year. We're moving to that standard, and you as a downtown are not. And so you know what? We're going to go right to Rapid City, where we're making sure that Main Street Square has stuff going on almost every night, like ice skate. See what I mean? Next one. This you have aced because you have all of your lodging and stuff right in your downtown. You are ready to roll. You're just missing the other things for them to do besides machines. I don't know how many you got. But once again, if you want to track meetings and conventions, like right here, we book conventions not because you have a facility like this, but because there's something to do at 5 o'clock when our convention ends for the day. Besides gaming. And I'm not throwing gaming under the bus. I think it's a great activity, and thank goodness you got that. Otherwise, what would you have after 6? Number 7, pioneers with patient money. That's what it always takes. And so let me show you a little video here really quick in El Dorado, Arkansas. And I don't have any sound at all coming out for the computer. I think my speaker's cut out there. But I'll tell you this. You saw those boarded up buildings and everything. This was an oil drilling town where a couple, Richard and Vertus Mason, got together and they went and did all this downtown. There were 2 people. They put millions into downtown, even though they didn't own all the buildings. And they turned this downtown into, this is El Dorado, Arkansas, in the southern central part of Arkansas. They're closer to Shreveport, Louisiana. This is what 2 people did. They spent the patient money to turn their downtown into an amazing destination. They would go in and help these merchants, and they turned it into something that's spectacular. And you know what? It's working. They've won every Main Street award. I mean, it's just been everything they're doing, and now they're becoming a strong visitor destination. They were an oil drilling company, a town. And when the oil drilling went away, what are we going to be next? And that's what they worked on, and they started on their downtown, and these are just pictures of it. And by the way, I took these on a Sunday morning. That's why you don't see a lot of people there. And so, what are you doing? There's no reason why you can't be a year-round destination. Look at Jackson, Wyoming. Look at Sisters, Oregon. Population. Has anybody here ever been to Sisters, Oregon? It's like an hour Bend, Oregon. It's not close to anything. Population 1,100. They're a 10-month destination. Wisconsin Dells down there. I'm going to tell you about them in a minute. It's the water park capital of the world. You know what their population is? 2,700. They're in central Wisconsin. They're a 3 or 4 hour drive from Chicago and the Twin Cities. There's no reason why Deadwood can't be that. And by the way, of all of these, they started with 1 block. You already got your 3 blocks. You don't even need to do this one. I'm not going to spend a bunch of time on this. But this is Sisters, Oregon. That's what they did. They made it. You have it authentic. They didn't make it up. So, I'm from downtown Denver, from Mineral Palace, Nugget. You know where I'm talking about? Right there where the road kind of bends on Lower Main, Pine Street. I thought, wow, start with this little, orchestrate your business mix there. I heard that you might be a Dairy Queen. Part of me said, good for you, and part of me went, oh my gosh, no chains, because so I'm into that. But all the things I talked about, your property owners need to get on board. By the way, that first one is usually done by the town or the city, but the property owners better be there on this planning because they're the ones that control what's in their businesses. So there's that section. And so now let me get into the next one. This next one is what the city would do. This is public sector stuff. And number 9, solve the parking dilemma. Here's my challenge. Yeah, we could spend all day on this one. No, can you read it? During the day, you cannot read that sign at all. You see what I'm talking about? Pillar right there? It says parking. I know it's lit up at night, but it's not dark. So no suggestion. I paint this black or a dark color and maybe paint the lettering yellow so it's still bad. Because I right by that twice before I ever down the side street and then I saw the parking garage. So that's the first thing. You cannot see it at all during the day. Okay. Another one. That way. Can you read it? I'm standing on the side right in front of you. Can't read it. You can't or what beige. Excuse me, minutes to shut down. What the heck is that? The average person will spend 4 hours in a historic downtown. 4 hours. That is the average time people spend, and you have that downtown. And you may say, well, we're not ready. I don't know if we could really keep somebody busy for 4 hours. You can. And this group 4 hours. So you know what happens is 2 hours dramatically reduces spending and repeat visits, period. We cannot get our employees to park somewhere else. We're going to punish our customers instead. For you. So, I can't even get into the lot. So in there, what the heck? And then this little parking 50 cents for blah 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 blah. Nobody's going to read that stuff. You know what you need to do is take this here and put it there that tells you where that parking is, because I don't want to read that right now. You know. And there I said, maybe that's it. So I there and this parking is for fresh lawn. I have parking then. So parking. No in between the signs, you know, there's signs there and there, which sign not in between. And then you know, so I saw, so scoop, here's the scoop. I think 6 minutes a dime. You know what? I go see is it Adams Museum? Or Adams Museum. I only had 30 cents in change. I had 6 minutes to visit the museum. 30 minutes. See the change machine there. I saw a phone booth there. But, you know, and I did visit the museum. I think they've done a nice job. What I'll tell you about museums, the average stay in a local museum around the country is 20 minutes. And that's about right. You know, one of those people that's going to open up every note and thumb through the pages and try to match the artifacts with the numbers. See what I mean? And so, but I did a nice job. The people there were great. They had lots of great books about the history of Deadwood. So, but you know what was this? My 36 minutes. When people are doing this, you know what they're doing? They're spending less money and they're spending less time because we don't want to get a ticket. And so this is where you're going to leave your history behind. And I want you to be, you're not a visitor-friendly city. I'm sorry to tell you that. You're not. Industry. So what I want you to do, I am going to get you into the modern age right here, and you could do this in the next couple of months. I did a Wisconsin Dells, population about 2,650. Here's what they did. Remember, they're the water capital of the world. They bring in tons of people. They're the water, there you go. They got 18 water parks. Here's what they did. They went and put this on the meters. And I'm going to tell you, this will not cost the city or anybody a dime to do. But what they did is they put these little deals on there. It says Wisconsin Dells Smart Park, and there's a little QR code, zone, space number. And when you go to Wisconsin Dells, you want to park, you can still coin if you have rolls of quarters with you. You can still pay by coin. Or you can pay by smartphone, and I'm going to show you how this works. Or you could use a kiosk, pay by your credit card, and then just put something on your and pay that way. And so they let meters there, and you notice what it says: pay by phone, coin, or pay station. Here's the deal. What's important to visitors is convenience. It was a hassle for me to sit there and go through I went to a store and said, can you make change? And said, no, we can't. There is change machines over there. Thanks a lot. I'm your customer. And so they contracted with Passport. That's the company that Wisconsin Dells used. There's companies there. They all did this. And it didn't cost the city a dime. They did it all. So here's the scoop. You have, I don't know what 30 minutes for 25 cents, right? So let's do 50 cents an hour, right? That's what you have. The city still gets the 50 cents an hour, but you know what happened is I paid 75 cents. They make their money off my user fee. But you know what? I'm willing to pay it because I don't have to rummage around trying to find quarters or go around trying to figure out where I can get change and hope I take it before I get back to put money in the meter. And the app is free. And then finally, you can also call and pay by phone. You can just call them. So what's really cool about this? Here's my experience. I put the QR code on my iPhone, your BlackBerry, your Android, whatever you got. I scanned it in there. Within 20 seconds, I had the app. And it says, oh, see, you're right here in Wisconsin Dells. And this could happen anywhere in Deadwood. It knew right down to the parking lot. And it gave me, and it says, give me yourself a username and a password. And I zone 110 space 646, and then I input a credit card. And by the way, it only is going to charge me for the time I use, but it's there, it's all set up now. And I said, I pay for 2 hours. And it said, okay, that'll cost you $3. It tells you right on your phone how much it'll cost. You can change it. I don't want to spend 3 hours, I want to do 2 hours. And you can do it in 15-minute increments. And here's what it told me. The meter's not going to register anything. Remember, the meter's not hooked up to the internet or anything. It says, the meter won't show any time, but we know you paid for your parking. And then it will text me 15 minutes. You know what it did? I was in Wisconsin Dells having lunch, and my phone went bzz, bzz. It sent me a text that said, your meter's going to expire in 15 minutes. Do you want to buy more time right now? I spent twice as much money as I would have, because I would have been doing this. Is that cool or what? It doesn't cost Deadwood a dime to do this. And there it goes. If the meter allows for more time, I can recharge it, pay for more time as I go along. And it took me less than 3 minutes to do that whole thing. And here's one. Most lots have 3 choices. There's those 3 choices again. They got this little kiosk there. And if you don't have a phone and you don't have change, you can use a credit card at the kiosk. You don't even have to walk back to your car because it knows. And this one actually has a solar panel on it. So you don't even have to worry about, now we have to run we have to run power out there. And look what they did. They took the meters off and they just put those on there. Is that cool or what? You don't have to deal with the friggin' meters. And so that's what they did. And so, they also have kiosks where you can call. I mean, they made it so easy by doing these. The next time I used the meter, it took me 15 seconds.